It's weird because I always sit like this, and so it looks like this arm is like shorter, right? Like this is like further up. Anyhow.
Have you seen the fucking like German arm wrestling champion, dude?
No.
He has like one like Popeye arm and like one
really?
arm. And I thought it was just because he was like a crazy German that just only exercised this arm because he was born to be the arm wrestling champion. But apparently there's some disease where that happens, and normally like the bigger arm isn't any stronger, but in his case it was.
Oh wow.
So he just had like the strong arm.
He should be like disbarred from
competing.
From competing for like a anomaly or whatever.
It's weird. The rest of them look like me. And then he's just got this jacked as fuck arm.
Hi, welcome to Comic Talk. I'm Joshua. And this is our weekly comic pull list review for June 8th. This week is another busy week. Everything keeps piling up on us. We have like a big week and then a short week, back and forth.
Yeah, well, Rebirth's out now, so it's just going to be probably crazy as fuck weeks.
It's always going to be big weeks now.
Yeah.
So we have 6 titles. They are as follows. Action Comics, number 1. Rebirth, number 1. Flash, Rebirth, number 1. I don't know. Daredevil, number 8. Vision, number 8 as well. Sheriff of Babylon, number 7. And The Fix, number 3. So let's start off with probably the biggest one of the week in terms of
interest and whatnot.
Interest from the internet world. This is Action Comics, number 1 by Jurgens, Zurcher, and Mori.
Luthor decides that he's going to take over the mantle of Superman, and a Superman from another world decides that's not happening. Mm-hmm. Then something big and scary escapes. You can probably guess what it is.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
I guessed what it was. Yeah.
I was really liking Superman, Lois, and Clark.
Sure.
And so that's why I want to read this. Mm-hmm. It's Jurgens, the same writer. And basically the same premise, just kind of carries on from where we left off with that series. Right. You have not read that.
I have not.
So, with that in mind, what's your opinion so far?
Well, I mean, it's not a continuation, I guess, in the sense that you can't just pick this up and like figure out what's going on. I mean, it was very, very comfortable coming into it. I felt like it was a pretty good example of like your upper end like cape kind of book. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, it read, nothing in it was groundbreaking, nothing in it was like super heady or anything, but it's one of those things that just feels exciting to read. Like, it's kind of reminiscent of like Wade Flash maybe in that way. Mm-hmm. Not in like the Silver Agey way kind of, but just that you read it and kind of smile and enjoy the moment for what it is and whatnot.
Right. I had kind of the same response to it. The Superman, Lois, and Clark was a little headier than this, actually, a little less action-oriented. It was a little bit more about them hiding, and it was kind of a celebration of Superman, him still doing the things that he does, but not taking any credit for it.
Right.
Whereas, so having read that, this is kind of cool because this is him stepping out and saying, okay, I got to do the Superman thing now. Shaves his beard.
That was awesome, the way he shaved his beard.
With that, mirror. And that, I imagine that the shaving of the beard thing isn't as symbolically powerful for you, not having read that, but after, I think 7 or 8 issues of Lois and Clark with him with the beard and the black suit, having him shave that beard off and throw the suit on and go out was pretty cool.
It was a moment.
Yeah, it's definitely a moment, but I completely agree that it's very much a Capes superhero genre book, which honestly, we don't really have one of those.
Yeah, not one that we were really enjoying. Like, we were doing Batman for a while, but we ended up dropping it because it was boring and stuff. So, yeah.
So this seems okay for that.
Bloodshot, I guess would be the closest.
It's but it's not really a Cape book.
Sure,
it's like a Punisher-y kind of thing, guns and stuff. So I like it for that. I don't think it's groundbreaking either. It was okay to good, maybe 6, 7 out of 10, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. But it seems like a decent start, and I like some of the stuff that we're getting here. So this could be really cool, or it could just be middling. We'll just have to see, I guess.
Yeah.
How about the art? What did you think of the art?
I thought the art was pretty good. I mean, again, like nothing groundbreaking or anything, but it just felt good to look at. You know?
It does. It feels like Superman. The facial expressions and stuff are pretty good. Not like, again, not groundbreaking, not amazing looking, but enough to really tell you the story. And I really like his Luthor. I think he's doing a good job with Luthor.
Yeah.
So that's a thing.
Also, the color palette is just super classic. You know, there's blue fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
I like blue, I guess.
Yeah, it feels good.
Happy.
It's a pretty good feeling book. Yeah. This is Flash Rebirth. This is Williamson, Di Giamodinico, and Placentia. Placentia is that colorist from Batman that we really liked.
That's the most Italian fucking name I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's so Italian that my tongue can't wrap itself around it.
Giandomenico? I don't know.
I don't either.
So we get the origin story of the Flash, and then there's like a recap of the Rebirth stuff. Barry's working on a case.
I think this is my favorite Rebirth title so far.
Really?
I really liked it.
I did not like it.
Really?
Like at all. It just felt like an extension of Rebirth to me. Like everything was so on the nose. Like this is why I'm in this panel. This is why I'm in this panel. This is the relationship that I have established with this person. This is the relationship that I have established with this person. And I mean, I haven't read like a ton Flash. I mean, I've read like a decent amount, but not all. But I don't feel like I gained or learned anything from this, like at all. And given it's a #1 issue, but so?
Right.
You know?
Well, all of the Rebirth titles have been like this. Let's not pretend like...
I just think it's been like the worst so far. Yeah.
See, I felt like being what it is, being a Rebirth title, a very expository pilot episode kind of thing, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I like the writing style. And I like that the Flash in this is a little more walkie and talkie. I kind of like that. I like to hear a little bit more from Barry and Wally instead of just zooming around and throwing a line here and there.
Yeah, I did appreciate that there were a lot of words on the page. It's just I didn't feel like I gained anything from them. Like it's like the first episode of like the Flash TV show, and just like stop talking.
Right, right. I think maybe after last week, and the week before, my expectations for the Rebirths
it's kind of gone down
been lowered and lowered each week. To where when I read this one, I really went into it going in with the expectation that it was going to be very expository, very explainy, and not really have any story of its own. And with that expectation in mind, I liked it more, but it could just be because I've now adjusted to it and I'm okay with it.
Sure. I mean, if you want to give it another one, we can.
I would like to give it one more. It's only 2 weeks from now. It's only $3. We'll see how.
We'll have another one before the month review anyway. So
right. And that way, I know all these Rebirths are probably really heavily editorialized, right? The editorial team is probably all over these, telling them you have to add this, you need this, you need to make
especially, sure. I know Johns isn't writing anymore. He's like straight on like creative controlling everything that comes out of DC.
Right.
So
we'll see if he lets up. Or they, because there's a whole editorial team that's like him, Berlanti or Berganti or whatever the hell his name is, and Didio and Lee and all those guys. So we'll see if the next issue eases off a little.
Yeah.
Because I like the writing style. I like Williamson's voice. I just didn't enjoy necessarily what he was having to tell us about, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, okay.
Cool.
The art was cool. I always liked the art in the Flash books, like seemingly across the board.
I did too.
Even if the story's shit, like it's cool to look at.
Next, let's go over to Marvel. Let's talk about Daredevil #8. This is Sol, Suzuku, and Mia, one of the two.
So Matt finds himself in China, I believe he's in China. Yeah, and there's a poker tournament that he's involved in as a blind man. So, yeah.
I liked it.
I liked it too.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Just the whole premise is like awesome. I mean, we get these little I mean, realistically, they're tropey moments where it's like, you know, of course he'd have this problem because he's blind and everything, but just the execution and the way that they're delivered and everything just felt really strong, and it was good storytelling front to back.
I agree. It had a great vibe to it. It really just clicks all together. And I also agree with you that it is tropey. A lot of it is very expected. There's not a moment in here where you're like, oh, I didn't expect that to happen. It really does exactly what you think it's going to do, but it just does it so well. Like, he really rides the line between giving you what you want, but giving it to you in a way a little better than you expected, I guess. You know?
The plating.
Yeah. And there was some really great moments, too. Like, I just actually opened to one of my favorite moments here, where the guy's looking into his mind,
trying to see his hand.
And then it's just blank cards because he can't see.
He doesn't know.
Yeah, he doesn't know. He's playing poker based on what everybody's tells and all that. He has no idea what his cards are.
I also liked his towards the back his mind's manifestation of the psychic battle that they were having.
Yeah, which by the way, when that started, I was like, oh great, one of these dumb using fighting to represent some abstract concept, but then the fact that they hung the lampshade on it and he just says, this is just my mind's representation of what's actually happening, it made it okay for me. Just hanging that lampshade made it fine.
Right.
Like, I liked it after that. Other than that, not a lot really happened. There's the end reveal that we won't spoil. A new character comes in to the fray that I didn't expect. I was really happy to see it.
It's a very prominent character,
Yeah.
Almost to the point where you wouldn't expect it because of that.
Yeah, well, especially where they're at. Like, they're even at a place you would not normally expect that character to be.
True.
So, cool stuff. This is definitely continuing in an upswing for me.
Definitely, yeah. Come a long way since Ten Fingers.
Yeah, good stuff. How about the art? The art was still good as always, I think.
Yeah.
I like the style that they do. I wish he would do more of the, like, Murdoch vision, you know? I always like that. It started in the Marcos Martin and Pavo Riviera's stuff when Wade was writing it. They really moved over to this neon pinks and yellows for his vision and, like, the repeating patterns, right? I really like the way that looks. And I could read almost a whole book that was just from his point of view almost. I think I would enjoy it still.
Yeah, maybe it's a deliberate choice, like, to try to differentiate from that style. I don't know. I enjoy it too, but what are you going to do?
Yeah. So let's now talk about the first of 2 Tom King books that we read this week. This is the same team as we've had most of the time on this. This is King, Walta, and Belair on Division number 7. Number 8.
Number 8.
Number 8.
Yeah. So Victor comes to visit, who is the brother of him, of course, because he's Ultron's kid. So, yeah, I like it right away because there's a second series, Runaways, from, whatever the fuck, tie-in.
Yeah.
Randomly now.
Yeah, that was really cool. Like, we both really enjoyed that old Runaways series. It was the second run. It was still Brian K. Vaughan, but it was his second run on it. He kind of did one, and then they asked him to come back, and he did more. And Victor was a cool character from there, and I haven't really seen him much since then.
Yeah, they mentioned in here like a couple other things that I guess he did, but it's not like things that I would follow.
Yeah, I didn't see him. So I was happy to have him back, especially written by Tom King, right? So
yeah, it really speaks to, I mean, he had to have just gone on this like continuing quest to find like everything involving these characters for different things that he can pull in and stuff, because I mean the second series of Runaways, we did that shit on Bargain Bin. Like, that's not a big well-known thing, but here he is like citing it and bringing in a character from it and doing it fucking awesomely because he's Tom King.
Yeah, otherwise this is really, I mean, I can say this and it comes off as if I'm demeaning this, but this one did seem like more of the same for this. I mean, we get a new character, which changes the dynamic, but overall it feels like what we've come to expect from the Vision, right?
Sure.
Which is phenomenal. It's not like that's a bad thing, because this is a great book, and Tom King's definitely doing enough different stuff too that he can kind of stick to a tone with this one, and it's okay by me.
But I did feel, because I kind of had that vibe too, and it wasn't like necessarily a negative thing, but it's like, okay, this is kind of the status that we're going to be at. But then the last like page, 2 pages, that's going to be a big fucking shakeup. But we're actually going to get like big events happening now instead of just little things that get swept under a rug and stuff. Like, actual consequences are coming, and I'm super fucking stoked for that.
Yeah, me too.
So I think even the delivery of that under the guise of something that would be more of the same, probably a good choice.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it really helps it bubble too, rather than just kind of come at you at once. It's this slow reveal, which I think they'd made an interesting choice with the cover. This was a ballsy cover, right? Because a lot of the time we can get spoilers on covers at times, and this could be considered a spoiler in a way, but it's like the cover's like a metaphor almost, or not quite a metaphor, but basically this doesn't literally happen.
Yeah.
So it's more of saying, they're at his front door.
Yeah. It's very on the nose. I don't know, what do you call that? Like a super obvious metaphor. Is there a separate word for that?
I don't know.
Comment below.
Yeah.
So art was still good.
Yeah, this is still quality book, still probably my favorite thing from Marvel.
Easily.
Yeah. Well, let's just stick with that. Let's go to the next Tom King thing here. This is the Sheriff of Babylon with King and Garrett's. There was an announcement, by the way, this week that Garrett's is now signed an exclusive with DC/Vertigo. So that's pretty cool, I guess.
New paper.
Yeah. It means we'll see more stuff from him.
Yeah.
So that's good. Because the art in this is killer.
For sure.
But so's the writing. So what happens in this one?
Well, on that a little bit more, since there's been the new Vertigo shakeup thing, I imagine there's going to be a lot of new titles coming out. So with him trying to strike exclusive deals with people and stuff, I bet he's going to be on at least a couple of new titles coming out.
I would love to see more of his work, because he's killing it with this.
So in this, I just don't want to like spoil anything.
Right.
Like, you have to like talk about anything that happens in it. So
yeah. So spoilers, possibly. We'll try not to, but we might a little bit.
Well, I can't really give a plot summary with that.
Yeah, there is no plot. There is no real plot summary that you can give. You can say that Nasir gets questioned, and Sophia has a conversation with an American. Right. That's really all we can tell you.
She's having health problems.
Right. And that's all we can really say without spoiling it to the point of really being painful to the story or to your enjoyment of it, possibly. From the cover on, this is super graphic. There's some gory stuff, but there's also just some like nudity that is discomforting.
Sad.
Yeah. Abu Ghraib kind of stuff. And it's just, man, this is a heavy issue. And it's not that much happens. It's really just a character drama heavy, right? Like just the stuff that these two characters are going through that's very brutal, but in two very different ways and like simultaneously.
Yeah.
And they're at the same time they're also at opposite ends. She's trying to get the same information that they're trying to get out of Nasir. And we're seeing how much better the honey works than
right.
Yeah.
Which I don't actually know what's going on with Nasir, because I guess I just don't understand like why he's being so withholding of like some what seems to us at this point like I would give that shit up without second thought and be like this happened and that's it.
Right. Well, there is the complicating factor of they like just shot his wife.
Yeah. So I can understand him being super pissed about that and everything, but
there's something else going on.
There's something else going on.
Yeah. The mystery here is so tensely and tightly written that I wish I had the next issue already.
Yeah. Already.
Yeah. This just continues to be like, if The Vision is my favorite Marvel book, this is probably straight up my favorite thing I'm reading right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're reading a lot of good stuff, and I feel like this is at the top of the list for me.
It's really, really good.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Yeah, it's just, and it's so much different than pretty much everything else on the shelf right now.
I mean, it's kind of like a Western-ish, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's the closest comparison that I could bring to it, other than, maybe like some of the criminal stuff.
Yeah, it does have a bit of a Brubaker vibe to it, doesn't it? I definitely can see that comparison here. Just good stuff from King, man.
But on that note about the Brubaker comparison, I would say King's voice is definitely a strong differentiating factor between the two, because Brubaker has like this very like just noir thing about him that he just approaches everything with. So that narration and everything, which it is heavy, is always going to follow like that sort of beat and everything. Whereas King can be a little bit more reserved, and just sort of let actions speak without words and let the tension of there not being words be like its own method of telling the story, which I think we see a lot in this. Just the absence of information that we would have gotten from, somebody like Brubaker is actually aiding the story in a way. I
do agree there. There is no real narration in anything. It's all dialogue, first of all, which is a big change from what Brubaker does, because Brubaker likes...
Well, there's some sort of there's a couple square boxes.
Yeah, but most of that is like a conversation that's happening off-panel. It's not really like a monologue-y, internal dialogue. It's an external dialogue that's just happening off the page. Yeah. So I agree that you get less information here. You're not inside the characters' heads, which gives you more of a third person. It's much more third person. Yeah. And it's also deliberately a lot more modern. It's, the voices are more distinct and more natural. It's a natural speaking with the characters rather than, like you said, the noir kind of thing. But aside from the fact that they have very different voices, what you end up with on the page feels very akin,
Yeah, so it's cool.
It is
There's
very
more
cool.
than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah.
You gotta try them all.
Yeah.
There's enough cats. They just...
And you have to read Sheriff of Babylon. If you're not on this train yet, you need to. It's fantastic.
Skinning cats and riding trains. That's what we're about.
We got one more. Let's try to get this wrapped up. We're really pushing our time today. This is a long one. This is Nick Spencer and Lieber and Hill and Shaw. Has there always been 4 people on this?
I don't know.
The Fix number 3. Let's do this one.
Yeah, so it's basically about like a Miley Cyrus facsimile. Yeah. And he's in charge of protecting her and whatnot, and yeah.
This started for me a little slow. I mean, I liked some of the clever stuff he was doing, but it felt a little obvious, I guess. There wasn't, like, the first half of this, to me, did not feel like it had the same clever twists, right? Like, the character was pretty surface level, the main character that most of this is about, which is that character. She's exactly what you expect that character to be. So it was a little bland there for me, but it really picks up in the second half, I felt like, where he mentions that, okay, we're at the bottom of the second act now. Right. And from then on, like the page where she starts doing drugs and all that, it got pretty good, I thought.
Well, there is the bit at the beginning where he's just sort of talking about like the situation that creates these kind of people and stuff like that, and then he's talking to that one crazy ass motherfucker. What's his name?
I never remember his name.
Yeah, I never remember his name. But on that note, I would say like the first eighth of it or so, I felt was pretty strong. Okay. So it was sort of like a and then back up. But yeah, we're definitely used to like a sort of like constant beat with this, where it's like this happens and then this happens and then this happens, and it's like a fucking prog drummer,
right?
Like shit's just like all over
the place. That's a great analogy. It is very much like a prog drummer. That's fantastic, man. Yeah. But this one, I feel like the middle of it was kind of like a refrain or something like that. Yeah.
But I don't know if you could have escaped like that part of the story though.
Right.
All in all, like I'm not sure how this really like ties into anything.
Me neither.
It was good.
It was pretty good. I got some good laughs out of it. the end is really strong. As soon as she calls him back and he has to go back to the house, I loved the last like 5 to 10 pages of this.
Yeah. All in all, it's pretty strong. This is another train that you should be on because of the method of skinning cats is something to behold.
Yeah, and this is just a type of humor that you don't get a lot in comic form.
True.
You know, this feels like action comedy. You know,
yeah, very cinematic. Not in the way that like Scott Snyder Batman is cinematic, but just in like a general.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's hard to describe, but just the way it's paced, the way, even the way the panels are laid out, and the perspective he decides to draw these things in, it just feels very cinematic. And also all of the
characters.
The characters, yeah, and you get this mixture of, like we were saying, very cliche concepts, and then he turns them. And like as soon as you think you know the character, he turns it on you and gives you like the other side of the person.
Right.
And that's where a lot of the humor comes from, is when we see these moments where the character isn't who you expected him to be. But I just felt like he drew it out a lot longer in this one before we got the turn of events.
Yeah. The characters are kind of, I guess, the whole morally ambiguous, like sort of tweener anti-hero thing is maybe like a bit antiquated now. So I think what he's trying for is just maybe like hyperbole of these two aspects. So like the person is actually on a surface level like super fucking likable, you know, and then the other side to him is just like extra fucking dark and shitty.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not that kind of middle ground. It's like, again, like this.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. It was funny. It was good.
Yeah.
Just not quite as good as the first two. That's
sure.
all.
I'll give it that.
All right. Well, that pretty much wraps it up for this week. You can always check back with us every Thursday when these come out. Next couple Thursdays, I will not be here. Is Christina coming in?
Yeah, Christina's
awesome.
coming in.
So you'll have Christina and Drew here. And every Monday we release an episode where we talk about other stuff with comics.
And you will be here for that.
I will be here for that. So we'll talk about a trade or maybe a bargain bin. We haven't decided. We've got like a bunch that we want to do.
Been reading a lot.
Yeah, we have. Well, we've been doing a lot of the Tux comics, so it's probably time that we come back and give a few new reviews of things.
Sure.
So we just got to decide which ones we want to actually talk about next, right? Which we have not decided yet.
No, we have not.
It's a surprise to you and us.
Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr.
Remember, we have a podcast. And podcast listeners, remember, we have a YouTube channel. It's all the same stuff, just with or without visual aid.
Later.
Bye.